You're listening to the Born to Kick Arse podcast with Matt Tomasi and can be found at borntokickarse.com/episode 45.
Welcome to the Born to Kick Arse podcast, where you're introduced to the most fascinating people on the planet. Learn the ingredients of greatness that you can apply to your life. And now your host, Matthew Tomasi.
Kristina Paltén is a Swedish ultrarunner who currently holds the 48-hour world record on a treadmill and is the former world record holder for 12 hours on a treadmill. She has also run 3,262 kilometres from Istanbul in Turkey to Tenhola, Finland, and then kayaked 493 kilometres to Stockholm. Kristina's most recent adventure was running 1,841 kilometres alone through Iran. One of her main reasons was to challenge her own prejudices against this Muslim country. Enjoy the interview. Kristina Paltén, welcome to the Born to Kick Arse podcast.
Thank you very much, Matthew.
Now, you've done some incredible things running-wise. I want to find out more about your run through Iran, and you've also there's also a documentary out called Alone Through Iran.
1144 Miles of Trust.
So I want to definitely delve into that. But can you maybe tell us about, because where are you based at the moment? You're in Sweden?
Yeah, I live in Sweden. I live in Stockholm, capital, but I was born in the north part of Sweden. I moved here when I was 20.
Okay, what, to Stockholm?
Yeah.
Were you always a runner growing up?
No, definitely not. I started running at the age of 31. That's when I did my first 10K race, and it was because a friend of mine challenged me to do it. And I thought it sounded awfully boring and a long distance.
And how did you go with that 10Ks? Was it pretty painful?
No, it was not. It was fun. I could cope to run together with my friend for the first 3 kilometers. Then she was much faster than me. So I had to struggle for the next 7, but I liked it. Yeah. And I liked running long distances, I realized after a while. I didn't like to run fast. So my running turned into being longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
5 years later, I started with ultramarathon running.
Prior to you starting, your first 10K run at the age of 31, were you sort of fairly active prior to that? Were you into any other sports at all?
Yeah, as a kid, I was playing soccer. I was playing between the age of 7 until 17. But then I stopped, and then, I didn't do much between 17 and 31. I guess I've been a little bit active, but not very much.
What about skiing? Is skiing pretty big around where you live?
It is, but in my family, we didn't ski a lot. I was skiing, cross-country skiing as a child, but it was mostly for playing. It was not for competing.
Yeah, the winters there would be pretty full-on compared to Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I've never been to Australia, but in the north of Sweden, it was winter between November until end of April. So it was snow covered all the time and only 3 hours of daylight in the middle of the winter.
Like even in Stockholm, is it like about the same daylight hours, like sort of 3 to 4 hours?
It's a little bit better. No, it's better in Stockholm. Right now, it's daylight between around 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much better.
Summers would be good there, wouldn't it? With the extended daylight
definitely.
hours?
Yeah, I love the midnight sun.
So from the age of 31, and you said you did your first 10K run, how did you then progress onto running ultramarathons? Was that something that you just sort of discovered as time went on, ultramarathons, or how did you get into that?
Yeah, it was something I accidentally ran into, so to say. Yeah. I did my first 10K at the age of 31, and then I did half a marathon the year after, and then full marathon year after that. Then I did some other more adventure races. But in 2007, I realized that there was a race that was 78.5 kilometers in the Alps. So I went to do that trip, and it was 54 Swedish ultramarathon runners in that trip. So I learned to know them and, started running together with them and had a lot of fun. So then distances became even more longer and longer. So I did 100K, 75 miles race, 100 miles race, 24-hour races. Yeah. And that's how it went.
Was it sort of mainly through like trail running or on the track?
No, it's different. Some were tracks, some were trail, but not extreme trail. I'm not very good at that. So it's a mix, I would say.
Now I want to talk about the your documentary and your run that you did last year, Alone Through Iran. How did that actually come about?
That I did do it, or
why did you want to do it, and how did the idea first sort of pop into your mind that you wanted to do something big, like an extended, like an expedition? When did that sort of idea pop into your mind, or when did you start thinking about doing something pretty big like this?
In 2013, me and my friend Karina, we decided to run from Istanbul to Finland and then go kayaking from Finland back to Sweden. And that was a run that was 3,262 kilometers long, and it was 500 kilometers of kayaking. So we did that, and we had a lot of fun during that trip, and we realized that we had a lot of prejudices that were not correct. So we did a run from Turkey to Finland, and that was quite a long one, but we had lots of fun. And I really liked it, and I realized, okay, I have a body that's capable of doing really long distances. We did a marathon per day for 75 days in a row. Yeah. And that worked perfectly fine. Then I did set the 48-hour world record, and at that record, a man came by, and he wanted to set a biking record. So we started talking about the rules on how to set records, and it turned out that he was from Iran, and I had been thinking about going back to Istanbul and run through Turkey, Iran, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and then through China. But that would be a very long run. And then I figured, well, maybe I should just go running through Iran, because I heard it's a country with beautiful nature. I also heard that it's friendly people there. But most of all, I thought it was interesting that I am a woman, and in that case, I would be running through a Muslim country with Sharia laws. Yeah. Alone. And my perception of the world around me is that a lot of people are getting afraid, and there is a fear growing, fear for people who are different from us. And in Sweden, we have xenophobic parties, which are growing, and so it is in Europe as well. Yeah. And I was looking at the world around me, and I saw a lot of fear, and I thought, okay, I don't want my life to be run by fear. I don't want the world to be run by fear. I want trust. I want curiosity. I want openness. So I was asking myself also, how can I contribute to trust, curiosity, and openness between people? And I thought, okay, if I take all my trust and put it into the hands of people that I don't know, from a different religion, from a different culture, and see what happens, then maybe we will have a beautiful story. Maybe it won't be beautiful, but I won't know unless I try. So that's how the idea with running through Iran came up.
How is Iran portrayed in the Swedish media? Because I'm thinking that it would be quite similar to the way it's portrayed in Australian media. My perception and what I sort of see that's portrayed through the news, it's a lot of negativity. The media really distorts what's real. I purposely don't watch the news because it's just garbage. That's the way it's so distorted. Is that how Iran is portrayed and sort of the Muslim world is portrayed in Sweden?
I would say so. I would say that Iran is considered as being a terrorist state.
Yeah.
And that I would say that I cannot speak of everyone, of course, but I would say that a general picture is that a friend of mine, she bluntly said, "How can you go to that country? They are just hitting their women and raping them." Yeah. So that's kind of the picture that's spread in this country.
Yeah, I think that's it's quite common that the way the media sort of portrays it.
Yeah, terrorism, being violent towards women, being abusive towards women, and also that it's if you are gay, you will be hanged, things like that. So, I think it's very interesting where my prejudices is coming from. And because before I was going to run through Iran, I was terribly afraid. And at the same time, I know nothing about Iran. My prejudice, my picture of Iran comes from media and from fear and from fantasies. But what does it have to do with reality?
Yeah.
And that is what we discovered, me and Karina, when we were running through Romania, for instance. We were thinking that in Romania we would be robbed, we would be having a terrible time, and people in Romania would be terribly poor. But we had a wonderful time. People were friendly. Yeah. People were very nice.
So
it seems like my picture of the world doesn't end up. It doesn't. The reality is something different.
You said that, from what the media has portrayed Iran to be like and the Muslim world to be like, did you want to just see for yourself whether that was real or not?
Yeah, I wanted to do that because I think I cannot trust everything that I see or everything that I hear.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting before I was going to Iran because a lot of people told me what was going to happen with me when I was going there. And then I had to make a judgment. How true is this information that this person is giving me?
Yeah.
If a person never has been to Iran and he tells me I will end up in trouble, why would I believe him? But if the person has been in Iran and tells me I will have a wonderful trip, I think it's more reasonable to believe the one who has been there than the one who hasn't been there.
How long did it take to plan, once you'd made the decision that you were going to attempt this, how long did it take to do all the planning side of things, leading up to day one?
Only 6 months.
Okay.
Because I could use the planning that me and Karina was doing before we were running from Istanbul to Finland. I could use kind of the same packaging, we were having a baby jogger. We were putting our tent and camping gear and everything into that. So I could just take the same list with the things that we were having and just change it slightly. And I could use the same one for Iran.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit different because I needed a visa. And when I applied for the visa, the embassy wanted me to ask for a permission from the government. And I was actually given a permission from the government to run through the country. And I thought, wow, great, because this will make me more safe. But 2 months before I was going to leave, they removed the permit. So I didn't have one.
Yeah.
But I didn't need one actually because it's not illegal what I was doing.
In terms of your planning and your preparation for this, what What were some of the main things that you needed to be mindful of in regards to the differences between their culture and Swedish culture, for example? Can you maybe talk about that? Like, did you have to wear specific clothing? Can you tell us about that sort of stuff?
In Iran, it's a law that I need to cover my hair, and I also need to cover the entire body. So I did need to find proper clothing because it's at the same time it was 45 degrees Celsius warm. So I understood that this will be a hot trip.
Yeah.
And there are hijabs, running hijabs, for instance. There are hijabs for basketball, for football, for whatever kind of sport. So I did find a running hijab that I purchased and tried to run with, but it was awfully warm.
So what is a hijab?
I could not.
Is that like a head?
Oh, sorry, a hijab. Yeah, that's a thing that you cover your hair with.
Okay, yeah.
And the running hijab, it's like a balaclava.
Yeah.
Do you know those?
Yeah.
You just pull them on your head and then it's covered and there's a hole for your face.
Yeah. In 45 degrees.
And that's like a run. Yeah. And having my throat covered was really uncomfortable. It's really warm.
Yeah.
So that was the main problem. But a friend of mine, he's paddling a lot, so he lent me his cap. It's a cap where you have cloth in the neck.
Yeah.
So you won't be sunburned in the neck. So I tried to run in one like that, and that worked perfectly fine. So I've been running through Iran with my cap and with, well, a regular running jacket and running trousers. But the trousers and the jacket cannot be tight. It needs to be flimsy.
I was just going to ask, with the hijab, what material is that made of? Is it does it promote evaporation of sweat?
Yeah, it's regular hijabs are used on. I mean, that's like regular clothing material, but there are running hijabs that are breathing and evaporating.
Okay, yeah.
But still, it's very warm to cover the neck. I didn't like that.
What would have happened if you hadn't have covered up your hair? Do you get arrested? Is that like an offence?
Yeah, it's illegal. So you will be put into jail. And I mean, in my mind, I mean, I don't like wearing a hijab. I don't like that I have to cover my hair. But when people come to Sweden, I expect them to follow the Swedish law. So then I thought, well, when I'm going to Iran, I need to follow the Iranian law because my intention was not to break the law. It was to do an amazing run.
With the clothing that you wore, you said you needed to wear like a baggy sort of tracksuit. How hot was that?
Oh, it was awful.
Was it?
Yeah, it was very hot. Because and what I didn't like most is, okay, it's okay if it's hot when I'm running, but if I'm going into a restaurant, I cannot uncover, I cannot take off my cap because I cannot show my hair. So I had to sit there being sweaty, smelly, wet, and eat in those clothes.
With this run that you did you fund this yourself or did you get sponsorship?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I was trying to get sponsorship, but a lot of companies thought that they didn't want to sponsor me because it would be a negative. They thought that I would end up in trouble and they would have negative publicity.
Yeah.
So there was a Varians, it's a Norwegian company. They gave me the clothes and my tent and sleeping bag, and they never hesitated. And I'm really proud of them for that because they were the only one who were not scared by the fact that I was going to run through Iran. And then also X-Cross gave me a pair of glasses because I thought it would be a lot of sand, and I have contact lenses. I don't want sand in my eyes. So they sponsored me with that. And also another company sponsored me with a video camera so I could run around and make movies because I wanted to make a documentary. Yeah. But they were the three ones who sponsored me. Okay. It was not really a lot.
Yeah. Were you expecting to get arrested at all? Or
Actually,
like really in trouble with the law? Were you sort of expecting that, like going into this run thinking, I'm going to spend time behind bars?
Well, I wasn't hoping that I would do that, but in case I would get arrested, I did have 2 spy cameras that looked like car keys, because I thought that if I get arrested, it would be so great to have that on a movie.
Yeah.
But that was the thoughts I had when I was in Sweden. When I came to Iran and understood how stupid it was to run around with spy cameras in my luggage, then I thought I was really stupid. So I did send the spy cameras back to the Swedish embassy at Tehran.
What other things were you mindful of in regards to Sharia law? Was there any other things that you needed to be mindful of, in addition to having your, being fully covered up clothes-wise and also having your head covered up? Were there any other things that you needed to abide, or like adhere to?
I was trying to understand the laws as much as I could. For instance, I knew that, I should be dressed properly, and I should also not touch. I mean, a married man and a woman are not allowed to kiss or to hug or to be nice to each other in that way in the street. So me as a single woman, I guess I shouldn't touch other men, so to say. Yeah. So I understood that I should behave in a certain way, but at the same time, once I was running with my baby jogger, and the man came running on the other side of a bus, and he happened to run into my baby jogger, and he tripled and he fell in the street. And I said, "Oh shoot, he hurt himself." So I bent down. I was clapping him on his shoulder, giving him water. And I didn't think about that. Okay, I shouldn't touch this man because I'm a woman. Yeah. But no one cared. They just saw a woman who was taking care of a man in the street, and everyone was smiling.
All right.
So it's things like that. And it was difficult. I mean, I can read the laws, what I should do and shouldn't do, but then there's also habits, how to behave. And I didn't really know them.
Did you do much study of Persian at all, the language?
No, not. I did learn a few words about food. Yeah. That's my priority.
Yeah. I'll have doubles, double helpings.
Yeah.
So tell us about day one. Like, where did you start off from?
Yeah, I flew to Tehran, and then Amir had a friend, Maridad, who lives in Tehran, and he drove me all the way up to the border to Turkey. And so the start was from Basagan. It's a small city close to at the border between Turkey and Iran. And when I was going to start, I was really afraid, because I realized that, okay, from now on, it's just me. I don't understand language. They don't understand me. I cannot even read the road signs. They are in Persian. And I just felt terribly lonely. So I ran 1 kilometer, and then I sat down on a restaurant and just cried. Yeah. Because I felt like the most loneliest person in the world. But then I just had to tell myself, okay, Kristina, come on, what is running about? Just about putting one foot in front of the other. That's all you have to do right now. Just put one foot in front of the other. And repeat again and again. And then I came to Mako, which was the destination for that day. And there it was a camping site, and I went there. And as I was sitting outside my tent, the guy who was running the camping site, he came by me with a big plate with food and said, "Lunch for you, Mrs." I said, "What?" He just gave me lunch, just like that, because I was a guest. I was a foreigner.
Yeah.
And I was welcomed to his country.
Yeah, that's
and
incredible.
then and even in the evening, I asked him for where can I find Wi-Fi, because I wanted to upload pictures on internet. And he pointed me to a restaurant, and I went to that restaurant. And as I was sitting there using the internet, the people at the restaurant, they were preparing for a wedding. And then they started giving me food from the wedding. And I said, no, I didn't order. No, you are just welcome to Iran. And they didn't let me pay for the food or anything. They were just happy that I was there.
How long did the whole journey take? Was it 58 days?
Yeah, correct.
When you were running, and there's also a documentary out as well, the actual filming of the run, who was shooting? Were you followed along, by the crew? Was there a film crew at all, or how did that work?
Now, the intention was that André, a Swedish journalist, was going to follow me through Iran. But at the same time, I wanted to run alone. So it doesn't work that he's following me all the time, because then I miss the purpose. We had decided that we would meet every second or every third day, and then he would do some filming. But he didn't get the permission. Okay. So he just had a visa for 1 week. So when I left, I had purchased this camera that I was given from Team Out company. And I only knew that it was me and my camera on the street. So the intention was that, okay, let's film as much as I can. Of course, it will be limited because I cannot film myself so much. But in Iran, Iranian movie company, they wanted to film me, but they didn't get a permission. And then the second company wanted to film me, but they didn't get a permission either. But then a third one wanted to do that. And finally, they did get a permission. So when I've been running for 2 or 3 weeks, I don't really remember, I met that photographer for the first time. And then he was with me for 8 days at different places.
Yeah.
So he's been with me for 8 days during the run, but it was only him. And for the other 50 days, I did the filming myself with my small video camera.
When you were running, were there any other runners out on the road at all?
Not much. It's not many people in Iran who are running. Yeah. But I did meet a running club, Marand Running Club. They came running with me for 1 day, and it was really fun because they usually run 5 to 10K, but that day they were running 35 kilometers with me. Yeah, they couldn't walk the day after, some of them.
What was in your jogger, the baby stroller? What sort of gear did you pack normally for day to day, with your fuel and your fluids, and what was in your jogger?
I had 25 kilos from Sweden, and it was clothes, tent, sleeping bag, sleeping mattress, kitchen, things like that.
Yeah.
But then I also had 5 liters water every day because it was very hot. And I did also have, I never purchased fruit in Iran because all the cars that are passing me, they stop and they give me fruit. So I did have several kilos of fruit on my baby jogger. I had so much fruit I couldn't eat it all.
Yeah.
The fruit, cookies, bars, like chocolate, things like that.
Yeah. With the planning, so the day-to-day planning, were you sort of aiming to get to a certain town or village or city along the way, or did you to sleep, or did you sort of regularly sleep like on the side of the road in your tent?
Actually, I never slept in my tent because it turned out that families along the way invited me to their homes. So I've been sleeping in 34 different families' homes. And it was just amazing to be invited like that. And also, Merdad, who drove me to Basagan, he started a group on Telegram. It's like Messenger. And he added his friend that he knew lived along the way where I was running. And they added their friend, and they added their friend. And suddenly I had 50 people who were helping me to find different places to sleep along the way. So usually I could come running there, and I knew that I was going to that town that evening. And as I came running, there was someone standing in the street saying, "Hello, you must be Kristina. Yeah. I'm Darius. You're going to sleep in my home tonight. Welcome."
So you're just running along and a stranger just sort of appears from nowhere.
Yeah, and it was an incredible friendliness. My budget, I brought 25,000 Swedish crowns, and I only used 12,000 because I didn't pay much. I was sleeping in their homes. They gave me food. They gave me food to bring on the road the next day. And people along the road were giving me food as well. Yeah. So I think hospitality is something that's deeply valued in Iran. They are very proud of their hospitality.
Yeah.
That's something that they really practice also.
What was it like? Were there any close calls when you were running along the road with traffic? Did you almost get run over a couple of times?
Traffic is horrible.
Is it?
Yeah. I think Iran has among the highest traffic accident rates in the world. So I saw 4 accidents during my run, and one was just 3 meters ahead of me. So that was a bit nasty. Yeah. There's also a lot of glass pieces on the road, which is not good for my tires. Yeah. I had 8 punctures.
So you became an expert at changing the tyre, flat tyres? G'day guys, Matt here. This podcast is a labour of love, and all episodes are researched, scheduled, edited, created and promoted in my spare time. Typically, after an episode has been recorded, it can take another 3 hours of post-production activities to get the final cut. If I'm providing you with value and you wish to support my vision of sharing these inspirational stories to the world, you can do so at borntokickarse.com and click on the Patreon banner. Your support will help to maintain the monthly podcast running costs and enable me to outsource repetitive tasks so I can bring you even more Kick Arse episodes. Once again, if you want to support me in producing this podcast, head over to borntokickarse.com and click on the Patreon banner. You can't miss it. And now back to the rest of the show. So you became an expert at changing the tyre, flat tyres?
Actually not, because I never changed the tyre myself. Oh, really? Because as soon as I start doing something with the mechanics on Baby Blue, then a man approaches, and then another man approaches, and then sometimes they start discussing, is she a man? Is she a woman? And when they realize, no, she's a woman, then they take care of my flat tire.
All right.
So I never did repair a flat tire at all.
When you were running down the road with your baby jogger, did anyone ever think that there was a baby inside it?
No, but a lot of people asked me how I was biking on it. But it's not a bike. Yeah. But the baby stroller is quite long, so I don't know why people think it's a bike, but it's not.
Yeah.
But I did meet 700 tourists, Western tourists who were biking. So I think it's more common to bike through Iran than to run through Iran.
Now, with the management of your water intake, you said it was quite hot, sort of 45 degrees, give or take.
Yep.
Did you have all the fluids, like all the water and all your drinks already in your jogger?
Yeah, I had 5 liters every morning.
Yep.
Because I wanted to be safe. But the hottest day, then I had an analog temperature reader on my baby jogger, and it was more than 50 degrees Celsius. It was in the bottom. It didn't go further. And that day I was starting lacking water. And I was in the middle of a desert. It was absolutely nothing there. And then suddenly there was a road crossing. And in that road crossing, there was a little shop. And I was thinking, Kristina, now you must be hallucinating. Can't be a shop here. It's nothing here. It's just sand. So I was blinking with my eyes and again, and no, that shop was still there. And I went into the shop, and they had ice cream and cold Fanta. So I bought 1.5 liter Fanta and just drank it. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I'm thinking 50-degree heat, and you're wearing a head covering, and you've got a full tracksuit on. How mindful were you to not overheat and get a heat stroke through dehydration? Were you sort of mindful of keeping your fluids up at all times?
Didn't think much about it, but I mean, I get thirsty and then I drink.
Yeah.
But I was paying attention to the salt level. So every night I just take regular salt on the bottom of a drinking glass and pour water on it and then mix it and drink it.
Yeah.
And that's to replace, all the salt that I'm losing through my sweat.
What's the culture like because I know, like, I've been to Egypt, and that's a predominantly a Muslim country. And one of the main things that I noticed as a tourist, during the day, there weren't many local women out and about. I'm guessing they were all indoors.
Mm.
Was that similar in Iran? Were there many local women, sort of out and about during the day, sort of going about their normal business, or are they traditionally indoors most of the time during the day?
I would say that most women are housewives, and they are home taking care of the children, cooking food. But there are also women who are doctors, who are driving the cars, and when I was done with my run, I was invited to the Swedish embassy in Iran, and they invited a lot of female, who are running companies, who have founded and who are running the companies. They are the CEOs of the companies. So there are fantastic, really career women in Iran, but as well as women who are at home taking care of the children. And I would say the main part are at home taking care of the children. Yeah. And in Iran, as a woman, I'm not allowed to travel outside my country without my husband's permission.
Yeah.
So, and for instance, I did have one problem one night. I was running, it was my longest day. I was running 86 kilometers, and it was dark. It was no streets. It was no lights in the street. And there were 3 men in front of me, and one of them grabbed my baby jogger and hold on to it. And he wanted to drink tea with me. And then he wanted to drive me to where I was running. But I didn't want to be driven. I wanted to run. And also it looked like that man was high on drugs. But he refused to let go of my baby jogger. And, suddenly I became angry because I wanted to leave and he didn't let me go. So I hit him. And then he let me go. And then I started running. And then he came after me and hit me. But I just kept on running and ignored him. And I never told anyone about that, because in a court, will I as a woman have only half of a man's voice? So if we would end up in court for hitting each other, I would lose because I'm a woman.
Yeah, that would have been scary. Not only the confrontation, but the fact that you hit him. Did you instantly regret that? Were you thinking, "Oh no, what happens if the police get involved, or the authorities get involved?" Were you really thinking about that as well?
No, not much, because he seemed to be on drugs, and drugs is there's a lot of death penalties in Iran. I think it's more than 1,000 a year, and most of them are related to drug-related crimes.
All right.
So the police doesn't look. They don't like drugs at all, and he was on drugs. So I think he would have more problem if we ended up by the police than I would. But at the same time, I didn't want to take the risk because my voice is only half of his.
Yeah. Did you ever get stopped at all by any authorities, like the police? Like you'd be running along, and did any police cars ever sort of pull over and ask you for ID or anything like that?
All the time. I think usually 3 times a day.
Really?
Yeah, but usually, I mean, they were curious and they were giving me water, they were giving me apples, and they wanted to understand what I was doing. But most of all, they were curious. So, and sometimes I say I didn't need a GPS to track where I've been in Iran because I was having a spot to track where I've been. But I think they have a perfect track record on me. Yeah. So I think, I mean, they were friendly. They were curious, but I think they also wanted to control me. For instance, I knew that, I mean, it was a lot of people who wanted to meet me, and I needed some space alone sometimes. So sometimes I went off the big road to a small road and just sat down to relax. And it took maximum 10 minutes before the police were there to check what I was doing.
Really?
So I think they have perfect control of me.
Yeah. So when the police often approached you, do you think they were thinking that you were from Iran, or do you think they would have known that you weren't from Iran, like you were a foreigner?
I think they understood that I was a foreigner, and I think they treated me differently also because I was a foreigner. Yeah. For instance, once a big lorry came driving by me, and my cap blew off and landed 3 meters behind me. Yeah. So I was there uncovered and just in front of the police, and they were just laughing. Yeah. And I don't know if they would treat me differently if I wasn't a foreigner. Yeah. But I think they've been kinder to me because they know I don't understand the rules. They don't know I don't understand how to behave.
On average, how many kilometers per day were you averaging?
The entire distance was 1,840 kilometers. So if I divide it by 58, then it's 32 kilometers per day. Yeah. So, but then I had 8 rest days because my purpose was to affect the world around me. And if I want to do that, then I need to have media coverage. So I did spend a lot of time on uploading pictures because I was writing for 2 different internet sites in Sweden, as well as my own website. And it takes time. Internet in Iran is slow. It was 4 different TV stations in Iran who wanted to do TV shows about me. Yeah. So that was really fun as well because it's governmental television, and I didn't expect that to happen.
Were you getting interviewed much throughout the run?
By Iranian media?
Yeah, or any sort of media.
Well, the Swedish radio was following me 2 times a week, and that was really fun. It was the only time I was speaking Swedish. Yeah. And Iranian media, there were some newspapers, some radio stations, and also the 4 TV stations who interviewed me. But the English quality is not very good, so sometimes they were using Google Translate to interview me. All right. Well, I never understood what was ending up in the article because I can't read the article either.
How did you navigate? Did you sort of did you know where you were going? I'm imagining that the street signs are going to be hard to read. Did you actually have a GPS? I think you mentioned you didn't before.
Yeah, I did have most of all, I did have maps because on a trip like that, I do have a video camera, I do have my tablet, I have my cell phone. Everything needs to be charged. Yeah. I mean, I need a lot of batteries. So I didn't use the GPS for navigating, actually. I used it mainly it was a spot, so it communicates with satellites, and it tracked my trip because I didn't want, I know that some adventurers have been accused of cheating, and I didn't want anyone to be able to accuse me of cheating. And also this spot, my friend at home, Karina, she was checking it all the time, so she knew where I was.
Yeah.
And my family and my friend Amir, they also saw me, so they knew if the spot was moving strangely, then something had happened.
Yeah.
And also I could send a message with the spot every night to my family saying that I'm okay now, I'm in a family's home and everything is fine. So it was also a way to, well, they were worried for me before I left. So it was a way to keep them calm.
What were your friends and family thinking when they found out that you were going to do this run? Were they thinking, oh no, you're going to end up on the news like beheaded or something like that? Were they sort of jumping to those conclusions or?
Yeah, some of them did, and it was really tough. Actually, one friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, she wanted to end our relationship because she didn't want to feel so worried. So she thought it was better to, well, kind of end our relationship before I left.
Yeah.
But we did sort it out. So she did also get these messages from the spot every night so that she wouldn't be worried. But I did have a tough telephone call with my sister. She called me one day and said, Kristina, our mom, she's 78 years old and our dad is 80. How do you want me to take care of their worries if you never come back home? If they never will see you again? How do you expect me to take care of their sorrow? And that was nasty because I felt like I must be the most selfish person in the world. My intention was not to hurt my sister and my friends, but somehow at the same time I can't live my life according to their fears. So it ended up that I had to tell my sister, okay, I hear what you're saying and I understand that you're worried and you have to take care of your worry yourself. I cannot live according to your rules.
Yeah.
But I can make you feel as safe as possible when I'm running. I will blog every night as long as if I can. I will send a message with the spot every night so you will have it and you know that I will be okay. I will give you the telephone number to my contact person at the Swedish embassy in Iran. And so I did make a lot of safety precautions like that so that she would feel safe.
Yeah. I noticed on the trailer to Alone Through Iran, you had on your buggy the Iranian flag and you also had the Swedish flag. Was that did that sort of help with the locals, I guess? You know, like if someone's driving along or you're sort of running through a particular town and, you know, you're pushing this baby stroller and, you know, there's the Iranian flag, you've got that sort of flying and attached to your stroller as well as like the Swedish one. Did that sort of help to break the ice with some of the locals?
Yeah, I think it did. And actually the purpose with having the flag was that I was afraid of traffic. And I thought, how can I avoid to be hit by a car? Well, let's put a high thing on my baby jogger so I will be visible for people in traffic. And then it's fun to bring your own country's flag. So from the start, I had only the Swedish flag. I wanted to put an Iranian flag there too, but I couldn't find one in Sweden. But when I came to Iran and I was in a family's home, the man there, I told him that I wanted an Iranian flag. And so he went out and bought one for me. So then I had both the Swedish and Iranian one. And I think that really, I mean, the Swedish flag, really interesting to be abroad, because then you realize that the Swedish flag is highly respected. People think about good economy, good democracy, and diplomacy. When they think about Sweden, they think about Volvo, good quality, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic in football.
And IKEA.
So, yeah, IKEA as well. So there's lots of good things related to Sweden. And I was thinking, what if I would have an American flag or English flag? Would it have been different? I don't know. I haven't tried.
Yeah.
But I think it made me very proud of my country to see that people think so good things about my country. And it was really sad to hear a lot of Iranian people saying, we are not terrorists. Please see, we are not terrorists, because they know that the general picture of their country in the Western world is that they are terrorists. And I felt so sad. What would I say if people were saying that my country was a terrorist country?
Yeah. And was that a common thing that a lot of the locals continually sort of brought up?
Yeah, it happened along the way several times.
Tell us about the terrain of Iran. Is it flat or is it mountainous, or was there sections where it was both?
I would say that I have seen the green belt of Iran. So first I had mountains and deserts, so it was warm and dry. And when I came to the Caspian Sea, then the climate changes. So I had the sea to the left and I have mountains to the right, and that means it's very humid because everything is locked in by the mountains. But that means it's very green, so it's jungle. And then as long as I was running along the Caspian Sea, that was the way it was. At the same time, there's Mount Damavand, which is the highest mountain in Iran. It's 5,600 meters something. So it's snow-covered mountains in the background as well. And then after I was leaving the Caspian Sea, it was more mountains and desert again. Yeah. But then I would say Iran is a huge country. It's 3.5 times as big as Sweden. So I only seen a part of it. And I think that most of it is desert. But I did choose this road because it was going to be the cool area in Iran. And with a lot of people also, so I could find a lot of food. And I thought it was going to be a good mix between mountain and desert and flat roads along the ocean. So I would have some variety when I was running.
Yeah. Did you do much running at night at all, or was it mainly during the day?
No, mainly during the day.
Yeah.
So only that evening when I was doing those 86 kilometers.
And what sort of time would you set off on average? Like in the morning, what sort of time roughly?
Well, the earlier the better because it gets warm. Yeah. But the first week I was running, I didn't understand that it was still holidays in Iran, and the families where I was sleeping, we could have agreed that I would wake up at 7 o'clock, for instance. But then they didn't move. And since I couldn't hear them move, I didn't move because I was waiting for them to wake up. Yeah. But the thing was that they were waiting for me to wake up because they don't do anything until the guest has started moving. Yeah. So the first week I was, maybe starting around 9 and 10, which is too late because then it's really warm already.
Yeah, that'd knock you, I reckon, like if you started off in the real heat of the day. And it just gets hotter from that point.
Yeah, it does. So it was a bit, I didn't like it in the beginning because I was starting too late. Yeah. But it was my misunderstanding.
What did you sort of learn about the Iranian people on this expedition that you did that you didn't know beforehand?
I remember one journalist once asked me what was the biggest prejudice that I crushed, so to say, and I was thinking about Iran as 80 million people who were quite similar. But then I realized that, okay, there are poor people, there are rich people, there are religious people, non-religious people. They are just as individuals as we are. And I felt really stupid for not realizing that people are people. We are not a group. We are individuals, no matter which country, which religion. We are different. But I would say the most general cultural trace is the hospitality and the friendliness. A guest is treated as a friend of God, and that's what everyone is doing. I mean, people could come running with flowers to me just because I was a foreigner. They were giving me melons, fruits, whatever, just because I was a guest.
Yeah.
So hospitality and friendliness, I would say, is the most general trace. And now I experience it, and it's really incredible.
Was there any particular point on the run that you were really struggling, both either physically or mentally, and you were sort of really doubting whether you could continue? Was there any particular point that you remember that you felt that way?
Yeah, there was one point, and we tell jokes about Swedes, especially the Swedes from north of Sweden, that we need a lot of time on our own. We need a lot of space. And I do need a lot of time on my own. And in Iran, you never leave the guest alone because you take care of the guest. So there were so many people who wanted to be with me. And even sometimes when I was sleeping in people's home, they slept beside me because they thought it was unpolite to leave me alone during night. So having people too close to me too long time was really, it made me tired, mentally tired, because I never relaxed. And then there was one policeman who stopped me in the street, and he was having regular clothes. He didn't wear a uniform. And he looked angry already before he saw me. And he asked for my passport. And I said, well, who are you? Can you show me your police ID? And he showed me something, but I didn't understand it. And then he started screaming about my hijab, and he wanted to look in my camera. He asked if I was a journalist. And it's not very good to be a journalist without a journalist visa in Iran. Then you can end up in trouble. So he was really nasty. But I called the girl where I had been sleeping the night before, and she explained to him what I was doing, and then he let me go. But 10 minutes later, another civilian-dressed police stopped me, but this one was friendly. He showed me his police ID, and he wanted to see my passport. And then a couple of hours later, a third civilian-dressed policeman stopped me. And I was tired, and I started thinking that, wow, is this the beginning of harassment? Is this when I will end up in jail? What is going to happen? Did I write something bad on my homepage? Are people going to harass me now? But the fact was that I was too tired. I couldn't cope with fear when I was so mentally tired. So I locked myself in a hotel room for 2 days. Mm-hmm. And ate a lot, slept a lot, just spent time on my own. Yeah. And then it was much better.
And whereabouts did you finish the journey? Where was the end point?
It was in Bashkiran. It's close to it on the border to Turkmenistan. It's close to a city called Ashgabat in Turkmenistan, and it was quite lucky to be there because it turned out that the board, or it was closed for commercial traffic, so it was almost no cars on the road. So for the 2 last days, it was only me running there, and it was beautiful.
Did any of the locals could any of them believe that you were running across Iran? Like, if some of them stopped you and they said, "What are you doing?" and you said, I'm running 1,800 kilometers across Iran. What was their reaction generally?
They were amazed. Yeah, they had hard trouble to believe it first, but they were amazed and they were clapping their hands and they were astonished, I would say. And I actually, been really interesting because after I left, it's been a lot of writing in Iran in the press, in big national papers about my run. And some people think that it has really affected the way that women are viewed in Iran, because I remember one man who was writing on Facebook that I'm Iranian and I'm a man and I wouldn't do this about my run. So maybe it has slightly affected that women are seen as stronger now than before this run. Maybe I don't know, but I hope it affects the view of women. Yeah, because not many men in Iran would do this kind of run. Not many people run at all.
I don't really see them traditionally as a big running nation, with sort of a lot of runners, particularly with the heat that would really knock you. If you could make a phone call to the 20-year-old Kristina Paltén and give her some advice just on anything, what would you tell her?
Always follow your heart. Do what you dream of, because I think that's really important. And this was something that I really wanted to do from the bottom of my heart.
And what did you learn about yourself on this run?
I learned a lot. It's very difficult to say what, though. And it was fun to come back to Sweden, and it took me 1 year to kind of digest what's been happening along this trip. First of all, when I came back to Sweden, I realized it took me 3 months to realize that I was still censoring myself. I didn't write what I wanted to write on my homepage. I didn't say what I wanted to say. I was still careful because I knew that in Iran, web pages are closed down and bloggers are jailed if they write improper things. So I was a bit careful, and I still did that when I was back in Sweden without even paying attention to it, because it became natural, and that was a bit scary. So it has learned me to value democracy, to value freedom of speech, and those kind of things that I haven't been thinking about before. Yeah. And also for me as a person, it was a time when the trailer started, when it was published on internet. It was so many people seeing it, and it was so many who thought that, wow, what an incredible woman. What a beautiful thing. How wonderful. And it is a wonderful trip. And at the same time, I felt like I'm not an angel. I'm not a saint. I'm having both good and evil inside of me. And this was a matter of choice. It was a choice in my life to stand and live for the values that I thought was important. And that's a choice that everyone can do. It's not a matter of being an angel or being a demon. We are both. Everyone is both carrying the seeds of good and evil inside of us. And it's up to us to choose what is my contribution to the world.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of hard work, of discipline. And it's definitely worth it.
All those sort of things that you've just mentioned, are they things that you've come to learn about yourself through running?
Yeah, I would say so. Because running is so much mental. It's physical, but it's doing a 24-hour race. I would say it's more mental than physical. And for me, running like that is, for instance, choosing the thoughts that brings me forward, not choosing destructive thoughts. It's paying attention to what's in my head and then use the constructive things to bring me forward. And I think it's the same in life. There are destructive forces within me in life that will backwards, and there are constructive forces that will bring me forward. And It's to be aware of what's going on inside of me and where I want to go. And then it's a matter of choosing, okay, what do I want to stand for? How do I want to express it? What is my contribution?
Yeah.
So that's maybe why I say it's a lot of work and it's a lot of discipline. And it's also about a lot of love, I would say, because to be able to give good things to the world, I need to give love to myself. I cannot, when I'm really tired in Iran and scared of the police, I cannot give good things. Then I need to take care of myself to be able to go back to the good, so to say.
Yeah. If you could give some advice to someone, maybe a female who's also contemplating doing some sort of running expedition, whether it's through Iran or another sort of country that, you know, something similar to this particular expedition that you've done, if you could give someone who's thinking of doing that some advice, is there any sort of advice or tips that you could pass on?
I'm thinking, first of all, it's very good to be a woman because people are friendlier to women than to men, I would say. I've seen some women think it's not a benefit to be a woman. They think they're more vulnerable. I would say it's the opposite. It's more valuable to be a woman because people you meet will be more prone to take care of you and give you shelter. So that's one very good thing to keep in mind. And then just do it. There are no limits to what we can do. So just go out there and explore. I don't know if I have many more advices.
So you've done some incredible things. You've done the run across Iran. You did the Turkey to Finland. Have you got anything else that you're sort of planning on that you're actively working towards, or have you got any other, you know, big expedition type adventures that you're working towards or anything like that?
Well, right now I'm looking for new ideas. Usually the pattern is I do a challenge and then it's really wonderful, but I also get tired and then I need some time to recover and to learn. To understand what happened during the challenge. And after that time is over, then I can feel my body starting saying, okay, come on, let's go. Let's do something new.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for that new now, but I haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see what will happen.
Yeah.
I'm open to ideas.
Yeah. And whereabouts can people find you online, you know, your website, and if they want to sort of, you know, see what you're up to and follow your progress and stuff like that, where can people find you?
Yeah, my home site is palten.se. It's PALTEN.se. And regarding the run through Iran, I was blogging in English, so that's possible to understand.
Yeah.
Then you can also find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. And for all of them, it's Kristina Palten, or Palten in Swedish.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I'll put those links in the show notes. And the documentary Alone Through Iran, alonethroughiran.com, that gives a good overview and has a trailer of the movie, and you can actually get the movie on there as well. Yeah, and I'll put that link in the show notes as well. Just wanted to say thanks for coming on to the podcast and, you know, sharing what you went through on this incredible adventure that you've been on.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kristina.
Thank you, Matthew.
You've just been listening to the Born to Kick Arse podcast at borntokickarse.com. If you liked what you heard and want more, please subscribe on iTunes. Give a 5-star rating and a Kick Arse review. This really helps to boost our presence and continues to allow us to introduce you to the most fascinating people on the planet. Welcome aboard, and catch you next time.